Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 193.
Yes.
Have you ever thought what it's like to be wanderers in the fourth dimension?
Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes.
The trouble with time travel is one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
Great men are forged in fire. It is the privilege of lesser men to light the flame.
I'm the Doctor. This is Rose Tyler. She's my +1. Is that all right?
That would be me.
Hello. Surprise!
Boom, etc.
I'm the Doctor. Do everything I tell you, don't ask stupid questions, and don't wander off.
How can you kidneys? I don't like the colour.
Howdy do, Who fans. Hope you've all had a cracking week. And that you've managed to do something Doctor Who related. Yay. We managed to do something very Doctor Who related.
I know. I love it when we get to do something Doctor Who related.
It's cool. We'll come on to that in a second. I hope all is well in fandom. Hope you guys are enjoying whatever it is you're doing in the really nice UK summer weather that we're having at the minute.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's beautiful. One thing I will say, though, is that sleeping through the night is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I know.
I don't mind it during the day. You know, you can go. I work from home, so sometimes I take my laptop out in the garden. I can work from there. It's all nice and picturesque, very clement. And then as soon as it gets about 8 o'clock in the evening, it's like, right, I'm going to start winding down, settling down to, for the evening. And it's just, I'm sticking to everything.
The thing is, it is unbelievably warm. And we do love to moan about it when it's hot. Because I saw everyone on Twitter saying, I can't wait for the winter. I was like, oh my God, we've only had it for like a couple of days. But it is unbelievably hot because the UK doesn't really get any sunshine, does it? So when we do, we like it for about an hour. Then we've had enough.
That's the way of the world.
Yeah, I was out at it yesterday, actually. I was listening to a bit of Big Finish in the sun. And I was absolutely scorching. I was listening to a bit of the Seventh Doctor audios with Louis Jameson.
Oh, yeah.
And I honestly, I couldn't even get past like the first, because they're only like half an hour each episode for those ones. I couldn't even get to the end of it before I had to come in out of the sun. I was crispy. I was like the crispy master from Deadliest. I was just absolutely baked.
The crispy master.
I love the crispy master.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't mind so much. See, I quite like, the nice weather and the sun and stuff, but it would be nice if you were by, a pool somewhere.
Exactly.
With a drink and stuff. Then it's all...
with a cocktail.
Yeah. But when it's, when you're sitting in, like I've got a leather sort of office chair, and I find that especially in the afternoon, after about half an hour, I'm having to just peel my T-shirt off of my... Yeah. So we do love this nice weather in the UK, and I'm not sure how long it will last either. Typically, it lasts for a few weeks, and then that's your lot. So
exactly.
We'll see.
We'll see.
But anyways, welcome aboard the TARDIS. New listeners, waving. Hello. Old listeners, grizzled ancients, welcome back. Adam and I run through everything that's going on in Doctor Who, news, merchandise, and then we pick a review. This week it's Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
Kudlak,
yes. I'm only just getting that right. I keep pronouncing it wrong. Kudlak.
Yes. One thing we don't do, and this is a kind of a sort of message to people that follow us on Twitter and so on. We don't do rumours and leaks and all that stuff around here. Over the last couple of days, I've been sent a few tweets saying, go and watch this video. It's a leak from the Beeb, go and see Jodie, etc. Don't do that around here.
But everyone has. I've got to. We may as well address this while we're talking about. I've got really quite annoyed actually because I don't get annoyed very often. I'm pretty easygoing, as you know. But and normally, I think I think I've said before, I don't mind little spoilers here and there. But because, and we were talking about this on Saturday actually, because it has been so well guarded and we haven't had anything. For once, I've got to the stage where I don't want any spoilers at all. Normally I don't mind the odd little photo or whatever, but I really have enjoyed the anticipation and build up, because we're actually now, believe it or not, probably only a couple of months away from the series airing. Okay, it'll come around pretty quick. It always does. We think it's it's so far away, and it's on its way. It's coming. So we haven't got that long to wait, right? So the fact we've had nothing, I've got to the point where I'm absolutely loving knowing nothing about the show, because I'm so excited for that first episode. The fact I know nothing at all about it whatsoever. So I think the fact that we have had this thing leak, so there was about a minute and something long clip
something like that.
Of Jodie from the first episode, and also there's been a few spoilery pics floating around with a possible device which might possibly be the Sonic or might possibly be something, so a few things have crept out. Part of me wonders if it's to do with the is it the San Diego Comic Con that they're appearing at?
That's right. Yep.
Because normally they get an exclusive, and that's coming out quite soon. So I'm wondering if this is where it's come from, because wherever it's come from, somebody's going to get, a right old slapped wrist. A rollicking, yes. Yeah. So, but I will admit, mate, for once I'm quite annoyed about it, because literally everybody I know has watched it. It was almost impossible to avoid seeing pictures. I mean, you can avoid the clip because obviously you have to click on the link to watch it, but there were pictures absolutely everywhere. It wasn't just on my Facebook. It wasn't just on my Twitter. So, because you can think, well, I'll have to stay off it. I don't want to see it, so I'll just keep off it. But then I opened up YouTube, and there were thumbnails with the blimmin' this device. I'm not going to say it's the Sonic because we don't know, but what everyone's saying is the new Sonic. There were pictures of it on YouTube, as thumbnails. So it was just oh God, it just seemed to be almost impossible to avoid it. And I feel really sorry for the fans like myself and you that don't want any spoilers, because I get that people want to make YouTube videos about it, saying their thoughts on it. I get that, but it's just don't encourage these guys to leak it. You don't even support it. It's just I just thought it was a real shame. So I haven't watched the clip. I will be absolutely honest. It was posted in a chat I was in, a link to it. Everybody was talking about it. I did give in, and I thought, let's have a look then. So I clicked on it. I watched about 20 seconds, and all the sound was out of sync, and it was, obviously Jodie's doctor. I thought, no, and I switched it off. So I haven't seen it. I've seen about 20 seconds of a really dark, clip saying property of BBC, and as I said, that's all I've seen. But unfortunately, I have seen all these pictures, spoiler pictures from it, and whatever this other thing is. I just think it's a real shame, actually. The Chibbers must be doing his nut, because he has done so well up until now. Yep. Yeah. He
has done well. I think more than any other showrunner we've seen thus far has managed to have complete lockdown. I know there's been the odd photo that's gone out and circulated and so on. But you can't really you can't control everything, so
it's impossible, isn't it? Yeah.
So I understand that you can't control with location shoots and stuff like that. There are always going to be fans who know that stuff, and they'll go with their phone. And even when Jodie's posed with people when they've been out on location, that's cool.
Yeah,
I can deal with that, because that you can't really, you can't control everything. But when you have leaks like this, proper leaks, it's not on, because, and don't get me wrong, there are fans that love that stuff. And,
I know,
and fair play. If you're into that, if you want as much of the juicy, leaky, gossipy stuff beforehand, then fine, go nuts. But it's just when it's everywhere. And I know of a couple of other podcasts that I listen to, and a couple of YouTube channels that I watch of Doctor Who, and they actually post videos and stuff about rumours, leaks, and so on. And I don't agree with, if you want to go into that whole thing, then fine. But just try and keep it contained to your community or your whatever it is you're doing, YouTube or your podcast. I completely agree. For fans that don't want to see it, you shouldn't be exposed to it just by sort of randomly clicking on a tweet or a video. It's I get you. It does burn the bacon.
Yeah. I agree with you, mate. And as I said, I don't mean to go off on a tangent because I do get it. I'm not being an old grouch. I know a lot of people love spoilers, and that's absolutely fine. My point is what you've just said, really. It's just that there doesn't seem to be any respect for anybody who doesn't. It's kind of like, oh, well, you shouldn't be on social media if you don't see spoilers. I don't agree with that. Well, why should I cut myself off from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for a week because people are just blasting it everywhere?
Exactly.
It's just not. Just have a little bit of common decency is all I'm saying. Yeah, if you want to enjoy the spoilers, I think it's more the fact that people get something and they they want to sort of almost boast and brag. Look, I've got it. There's a couple of people I saw like, really? So I've got it downloaded on my laptop. I could watch it. You shouldn't have it. It's property of the BBC. Yeah, fine, you've watched it. We get it. You don't need to sort of shove it in my face. I don't want to know, sort of thing. So I did get a little bit annoyed, and it was funny because we were only talking about how well Chibbers was doing on Saturday. But to be fair, I mean, the clip itself, from what I understand, isn't that spoilery, so that's good. But so he is still doing a good job. He's still doing a very good job.
Indeed,
and we haven't seen any set pics or anything, so that's all good.
He is doing a good job.
He is, yeah.
Bless his little heart. Let's leave that stuff. Let's talk about what you and I were up to then last Saturday. So you and I took a trip into London, as we sometimes do, but this time it was to go and see a screening of Genesis of the Daleks at the BFI cinema.
Yes,
and we love going there, don't we? Because it's a really cool little cinema. It's a
great place.
It's one of the if you can picture in your mind, listeners, some of the really cool modern cinemas that you might go to, like an Odeon or some Cineworlds or Empire, stuff like that. It's nothing like that at all, and that makes it really cool. Actually, it's quite an old cinema. It hasn't it hasn't got like Dolby Atmos or any of that stuff, and the seats are quite old. But I tell you what, they're really comfy. There's a lot more legroom there than you have in sort of modern cinemas. And it's just a really cool place to go, especially for these Doctor Who events. And we've said it so many times, when you're there surrounded by loads of other Who fans, it's really cool atmosphere. And Genesis was, crikey. I mean, we can't say too much because you and I haven't reviewed this together.
Oh, no. Yeah, I keep forgetting we haven't reviewed it yet.
And we will do that. It is on. We got that loads afterwards. It's like, have you guys reviewed this yet? You should do it. You should do it. You should do it. So we will get round to it as soon as Series 11 is done and we get back onto the other reviews. We'll put it in there for sure. But it was really, really cool watching that at the cinema, wasn't it?
It was fantastic, actually. And I purposely haven't watched Genesis for quite a long time, and because I knew we got it coming up, I thought, right, I won't watch it because it'll almost seem quite fresh, I think, because it's been so long since I've seen it. Yes, and it was such a good day, and I agree with you about the BFI. I absolutely love going there. It almost feels like being in a sort of a mini convention somehow, because you've got all your Who fans around you, and the more we go, the more people we get to know, don't we? We sort of see, sometimes we see the same faces of friends that we've made through the Who community. On this occasion, we got to meet some new friends. We got to meet one of our listeners, Paul, who spent most of the day with us. So that was really cool.
He was cool, Paul.
He was, cool Paul, as he will be known for now. We also got to do a bit of celebrity mingling because we went to the BFI bar afterwards, and you had the Time ladies there, you had Crystal D there, you had Lee Sullivan.
Yep. Lee Binding.
Yes. I knew as soon as I said it, I was like, it's not Lee Sullivan. Lee Binding. Yep. Who's Lee Sullivan?
That's because we were talking about Lee Sullivan as the other comic artist he was.
Oh gosh, I know idea.
Forbidden Planet with Cartmel and Aronovich. Yeah.
Sorry, Lee, if you're listening. Yeah, Lee Binding. Yeah. I have to say, actually, just stopping on Lee for a second, he was an absolute highlight for me of the day. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I've never met Lee before. I know you chat to him a lot on Twitter, don't you? I've never met him before, and our good friend Morgan sort of introduced us. And what a great, absolutely great, genuinely funny.
Yeah.
And just one of those people you could just spend the whole day with. He just is such a fun guy to be around. You guys got to see the season 12 box set as well, which he had with him, which I must have missed that because you were all talking about it. I must have been at the bar. So you got to actually hold the real thing, didn't you?
Yeah, we got our hands on. So any of our listeners who are unsure of who Lee Binding is, Lee is the guy that does a huge amount of design and artwork for the BBC. He does a lot of the Blu-ray and DVD covers, and he's done some Big Finish covers and all that stuff. So he does an awful lot in terms of art and design and stuff. And he was the guy that designed the new Series 12 Blu-ray box set. So he had it there. He had like a pre-release sort of rough version of it. And it looks really nice, beautiful inside, really cool. And I saw on Twitter, actually, a few people have actually got theirs already, depending on where you ordered it from. So
yeah, I think it was the Zoom. People were saying, I ordered
yeah.
it from Zoom, and they've already got it. Yeah, quite jealous of that, actually, yeah.
Ours is not here until next week from Amazon. But no, Lee's one of those guys that I was really, really impressed with Lee, because genuinely what you'll find with... I'm not saying that he's a celebrity per se. You know, he's not been in. You know, does that make sense? He's not like.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But he is involved with the show, and typically what you find is people sort of keep fans, like people like that, keep fans at sort of an arm's length, if you like. You know, they interact with fans and stuff, but that's it. You know, they won't sort of go too far. But I tell you what, Lee, he was so cool because he was there with his partner and their circle of friends.
Yeah,
but he was with the fans the entire day. You know, he was chatting to people. He was so friendly. And then when we went for dinner afterwards, he stuck with us. You know, he even sat on our table while his partner and his friends were on the other table. And he was just interacting with us. And he's such a cool guy. Really, really cool. Yeah,
I definitely left a massive impression on us after we left. Like you said, just because of that, because often when you meet people, you're aware you don't want to inflict yourself on them, because there's often a group of sort of, like you said, people that work behind the scenes, Doctor and stuff. So you want to go and say hi, but you also don't want to be like, imposing yourself too much on them. So you say hi, blah, blah, blah. Then they go back to their little group and you go back to yours. But with Lee, he just genuinely just seemed to love talking to everybody in the room, didn't he? He was just so much fun to be around. And it was lovely actually. Just we all went to Nando's, didn't we? And just just sat there just talking Doctor Who, and it's telling us about his cover. It was just so cool. Yeah.
But back to the screening itself, we had the trimmed down 90-minute director's cut, whatever you want to call it. Which I actually didn't mind, because I think having all 4 parts in the cinema would have been quite long. So I didn't mind this. The way it's put together is actually quite nice. The only thing I do miss with these whatever you want to call it, this, when you take away the episodic element and you view it more as a film, is I do miss the cliffhangers a little bit.
Me too, yeah.
I think that's a common opinion. I do miss those, but overall it was really good. And then we got the Q&A with Philip Hinchcliffe, didn't we, afterwards, which was quite cool. I mean, I love Philip. He's such a, he's been such a wonderful influence on Classic Who and so on. But I do find his answers a bit samey. That's the only thing I'll say about it, because if you read any interviews with Philip, and before I met you guys, I went to Forbidden Planet, as you do when you're in London, and I picked up the latest issue of SFX magazine because they were doing a Doctor Who special.
Oh, it's really good, actually. I've picked it up as well, yeah.
Yeah, and there's an interview in there with Philip, and if you read that, his answers were pretty much the same that he gave at the BFI when he was being interviewed. Right. And an interview I read with Philip in a different magazine, it's going back 2 or 3 years ago, his answers are pretty much the same there as well. So although I love Philip, he's really cool, and his insights into that era of Who and stuff, and his work with who's the director that he works closely with, I forget his name. The other Bob Holmes. So him and Bob Holmes, like a immense force, storytelling and creative force in that era of Doctor Who. I just wish that we got like just a bit more, a few more nuggets of juicy info about Tom and that sort of thing, because he does keep himself quite reserved, doesn't he?
Yeah, I know what you mean. He's not letting them off with them, because I always think Stephen Moffat, no matter what you think of him, you get him on a stage, he's so entertaining, and he just says what he thinks, doesn't he? Sometimes it's not always a good thing, but he just will come out with it, and it's you always know you're going to get something from him. Like you said, I mean, I thought Philip was. It was very interesting on stage, but I know exactly what you mean. It's not like it's scripted, but he sort of sticks to the. It's as if he's been asked this question many times. So he's already got the answer before the question almost, doesn't he? So he just kind of reels it out. And they're normally quite short, concise answers as well, I found. Yeah, it's like there's your answer, next. And then you're on to it. So I do know what you're saying. But I was really hoping that we were going to get Frank Skinner up on stage again, because he was there. But they didn't. Because sometimes he's always at these Doctor events, isn't he? And sometimes they just say, do you want to come up on stage, Frank? And he's always really entertaining. And he would have been really good, I think, with Philip. He might have coaxed a bit more out of him with his sort of cheeky style,
Yeah, but at least you got your picture signed, though.
Yeah, finally. Time. Yeah, I've had this picture of Frank Skinner as Perkins from on Express on me. For every event for the last 4 or 5 events, because Frank normally comes out and he'll sign and have pictures. He's normally pretty chilled. But the last few events, I've just not managed to get him. I think the one with the moth, they kind of headed straight to the bar and he didn't come out. And so I've had this picture of me for ages. And I said to you, didn't I don't think I'm ever going to get this signed, because the ones I met him before and I didn't have anything to sign. The one now I've got something, I just couldn't seem to get it signed. But yes, he did sign it and he was very nice. I got a picky with him as well. So he's very chilled as Frank. Yes. It's quite easy going. I'll tell you the other thing I loved about the BFI event, mate, was that, and I hoped we were going to get this. They didn't mention it, but Tom did a little intro before the actual screening. Yeah. So we got a little exclusive message from Tom, which they did for the Shada event as well. Mm-hmm. I think it was a really nice little message, actually. Basically, it was just saying, I hope you enjoy it. And, and he said something about Liz and Ian Marta, Elizabeth Slade and Ian Marta living on through Doctor Who and stuff. It was quite a short but very nice little message before the screening. And then afterwards, we got to see some of the extras from the new Blu-ray set, which were brilliant.
Really
I mean, they were and they showed us quite a lot. I was surprised how much we got to see, actually. So it's quite a long sort of session, actually, what with the Q&A and the actual 90-minute film version, and then the message from Tom, and then we got to see 2 lots of extras, didn't we? So it's quite a long stint in there, actually. It's a good job those seats aren't comfy.
One of the features looks really good. It's called Behind the Sofa, and it's like a goggle box. Anyone that knows the show Gogglebox, where you've got a camera on people on the sofa and you're watching them and they're watching something on the TV. And it was really cool, because one of them was Tom Baker, Philip Hinchcliffe, and the lady who was with them, I didn't recognise her, but they were watching Genesis.
I think it's Liz's daughter.
Oh, it could be, yeah.
I'm not sure.
And the other one was, who was it?
Janet Fielding, Louise Jameson, and Sarah Sutton.
That's it. Yeah, the 3. And they were watching it as well, and it was really funny, wasn't it? And it's not like when you've watched commentaries on the classic DVDs before, and you're watching it, and then you've got the audio overdub of those guys commenting on what's happening. It's like the complete opposite to that. You're actually watching them, and they sort of flick between like the clip that they're watching, and then it flicks to them on the sofa. But they're not commenting on it in a way that is meant to be informative. Because on those commentaries, apart from Black Orchid, of course, with those commentaries on the classic DVDs, they're typically trying to give you like, oh, when we were filming this scene, so and so made a joke and it was funny, or when we were filming this scene, the lighting guy tripped over and that's why the effect looks. It's more sort of trivia, informative base. Whereas this one, all they're doing is just completely taking the mick out of, pretty much everything they're seeing, and they're taking the mick out of themselves as well.
Janet Fielding was hilarious in the one the clip they showed of her. Really funny.
Yeah, it was really good. So I'm really looking forward to watching all of that special feature, because we saw roughly 10 minutes of it, didn't we?
Yeah, we saw about 10 minutes of that. I must admit, that's the bit I really enjoyed. I can't wait to see more of that. We also got to see about 20 minutes of the new Tom Baker interview with Matthew Sweet. And I said to you afterwards that looks like an amazing interview, because Tom, I love Tom in interviews, but he's often he comes out with stories very sort of, I wouldn't say exaggerated, but they're often, he's, really sort of building up the story. Uh-huh. In this interview, and you said the same, didn't you? He seems to be slightly more toned down, really, really honest, answers to the questions, and really interesting. Like it just looks like such a good interview. I don't know about you, mate, but I had to wipe away a little tear when he started talking about what was he saying about how much time he'd got left and stuff, and he was very reflective in the clips that we saw, it was quite emotional, but it just looks like such a great interview. Again, I can't wait to even more anticipation for that season 12 box set, which we should have next week, I think, hopefully.
Next week, the 2nd
it's
of
been
July.
delayed a few times, but like you said, people are starting to get it, so they look amazing, those extras, the new extras.
So we had a great time. We had a really good time on Saturday. It was one of those really cool, nice, just really cool Who days where, like you said, it's felt like a mini convention. You just meet up with loads of cool peeps and stuff. I love days like that. Really cool. Yeah.
Me too, mate. Is there anybody I've missed that was in? Because it felt like there were loads of people from Doctor Who in that BFI. I know we saw our old mate Kamsey, Blog to Who.
Oh, Kamsey.
He was there. It was good to see old Kamsey. Is there anyone else I've missed? There just seemed to be loads of Who people around us that, you think, oh, they do that. They do the Doctor Who magazine. They do it. It was brilliant.
I think the only other person that was there that we didn't chat to this time was Mark Ayres.
Oh, yes.
He was wandering around, and so he's the guy that sort of spearheads all of the audio production.
Oh, he does a great job
for the restoration team. So he was there, saw him a few times, but didn't stop him this time.
No.
But overall, cracking day.
It was, mate. Absolutely superb, yeah.
Very, very cool. So that's enough about what we did. Shall we see what's going on in the news? One bit of news before we move on to merch. And this is kind of, in a way, this is the sort of official announcement that we've been waiting for. Because so far, nobody's actually come out and said, yes, this is the case, but we have it confirmed now. So Murray Gold is officially gone.
He's out of it.
He's out. He's been picked up by his shirt collar. He's been hoyed out the back door into the alleyway. They're not allowing him to go back out the front. He has to go out the back. See you later. Thanks for everything. Might see you at a convention in a few years. So Murray's gone, and the BBC have confirmed that the Series 11 score will be composed by Segun Akinola. So that's now been confirmed. Interestingly enough, the way that the BBC have worded this is because when they brought Who back in 2005, Murray Gold was not announced, but he was sort of detailed as the new composer of Doctor Who. It didn't say that Murray Gold is going to be composing for Series 1, insinuating that somebody else might do it for Series 2 onwards and so on. Murray Gold was just the composer. So interestingly enough, they haven't said that. They haven't said that that Segun is going to be the new composer. It's just he's the new composer for Series 11. So that suggests to me that potentially we'll see how this goes. He could be back for Series 12, or he could just be the new composer moving forward like Murray Gold. However, this is great news because, like I said, for ages now, Murray Gold, hasn't actually come out and said, it's official, I've left, Doctor Who, and the BBC haven't said anything. So this is kind of our, right, now we've got a new composer, look forward to new music for Doctor Who. So not only will he be composing the incidental music that you will hear throughout each episode, but he's also going to do his own fresh take on the theme tune, which is very interesting because And also very cool because everything has changed with Doctor Who. You know, it's one of those big resets that we had when the Moff and Matt Smith took over. You know, we've got, because they did exactly the same thing. They, you know, the new logo, the new look and feel, you know, everything. The only difference is that Murray Gold obviously came with them. So I would say this makes perfect sense because, you know, if they're going to change so much, you know, a new Doctor, a new branding logo, everything's different, you know, why not have a new theme tune to go with it? So he's going to be doing everything, basically, a new theme tune, the new incidental music. And so a bit about Segun himself. He trained at the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire. So that's where he sort of trained to sort of earn his musical chops, if you like. Some other work that he's done, he composed the score for the BBC 4-part series Black and British, A Forgotten History. He's also done things for Dear Mr. Shakespeare and some other bits. To be honest with you, I don't recognise his name. His name doesn't shout out to me as a composer that I know from TV or film. But we do have a bit of blurb as well from Chibbers. So he says, "Welcome to the Doctor Who family. We're over the moon that Segun's agreed to join us to provide the score for the next phase of the Doctor Who adventure. From our very first conversations, it was obvious that he was passionate, collaborative, and a delightful human being, as well as fantastic and bold composer. We're looking forward to introducing the world to his exciting and emotional soundtrack for the 13th Doctor." And then he said, "Doctor Who is woven into the fabric of British culture and recognised globally. I'm absolutely thrilled to be given the privilege of working on such a beloved series and to bring my musical voice to it." So what do you reckon, mate? Are you excited about this, or have you got reservations?
No, very excited. Very excited indeed. I don't know the name. Like you said, I didn't when they announced this last night on Twitter. I was like, oh, you know, but I like that because again, it adds an air of mystery. Like I loved Murray's music, but I think we both agreed that he got a bit samey towards the end. But then he did, 10 series, was it? So, it's understandable. So it absolutely does make perfect sense to have somebody new to give it a totally fresh feel. I'm very excited, mate. I don't know his name. I don't know any of his stuff. But a few people have circulated a few pieces from SoundCloud, and what I've heard sounds very good. It sounds a little bit more electronic, which is what I would love to hear. I'd love to hear a bit more synths creeping back into Doctor Who. As a keyboard player myself, I'd love to hear a bit more synthesizer coming in, as well as all the other stuff. So I've got a very good feeling about this. I would love to know if he did the little, the trailer we got with the TARDIS shooting through when they revealed the new logo. We got this sort of a hint of I still think it might have been part of the new theme. It's sort of like, this sort of broken piece of music playing out throughout it, which I loved, and again sounded a little bit electronic and stuff. So I wonder if he did that. I don't know, but yeah, I'm very excited by this, mate. I think it's really cool. Yeah, can't wait to hear what he comes up with.
Very cool. And apparently his recent work, if anybody wants to check out anything that he's done recently, he did the scores for a 3-part series, The Human Body Secrets of Your Life Revealed. And he also did the score for a 2-part series, Expedition Volcano, that went out on BBC Two. So those were fairly recent, apparently. So if you want to check out what his style is like and what he's capable of, you can check those out. I'm assuming they're on, at least the Volcano thing will be on iPlayer because it's fairly recent.
Probably, mate. I just think that must be such a daunting task as well, having to come up with the new theme tune. Like, all eyes are on you, aren't they? It's such an important part of the show. I think the Doctor Who theme, I don't know about you, but I never ever really took to the last theme that we got. Murray did that theme for 12, for the 12th Doctor. Sorry, for series. When did that creep in? Was it series 10 or did we get it for series 9 as well?
It was 9, yeah.
Yeah, that horrible, shrieky, violent. Yeah. I thought it'd grow on me, but it never ever did. So I'll be glad to see that gone. Yeah, so he must, I don't know, just like the weight on this man's shoulders to come up with the theme tune must be immense. But I'm looking so forward to hearing it. Yeah.
And let's hope that this time the BBC and whatever publishing company they work their paperwork out, we don't end up waiting for 3 years for the Series 11 soundtrack. So
it would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice.
So there we go. That's good news. Something to look forward to. But let's bring in our metal friend and see what he's got for us.
Merch corner. Merch corner. Merch corner.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
Big Finish, Adam.
Yay! We love stories.
We do love stories. So Big Finish are on a bit of a roll these days with Torchwood.
Oh, they are loving it.
Which is quite cool because I would say this is the only outlet that John Barrowman has to sort of get his Captain Jack on.
Yes.
Because after, I'm still a bit bummed out about that, Because
so is he.
I remember a couple of, what was it? It must have been 2 or 3 years ago now. If anybody follows him on Twitter or Instagram, you would have seen that he tried so hard, didn't he, to get Torchwood back for another series on the TV. And I remember him flying to London and going to have meetings with the BBC and really sort of trying to say, look, fans want to see Torchwood again. I really want to do it. Let's make it happen. And if you believe John Barrowman or not, if you believe him, he says that Stephen Moffat, blocked, put a blocker on that and didn't want it. Whether that's true or not, or whether he was just venting at somebody, because at that time Stephen Moffat was the face of Doctor Who for the BBC.
So and he denied it, didn't he? I remember when there's that big sort of face-off between the two. They were like, "No, I didn't say that." Yes, you did.
Yeah. So thank the Lord for Big Finish. Him always the one, because anyone that picked up the recent story called Believe that was out a few months back. From Big Finish, that Torchwood story, that was superb. That was like the full cast proper, because I think some of the Torchwood stories prior to that, they had like a slightly different style than the normal Big Finish things. They were more of a sort of, it was more of the narrative was more sort of somebody talking over, describing the events of what's happening, rather than a full-on audio play, should I say. They were more sort of that direction, I would say.
Yeah.
But Believe, that was like a full-on proper, cast audio play. It was really, really good. So Big Finish have now announced that Series 6 of Torchwood is coming in October. And this one is titled God Among Us.
Ooh.
Which is kind of a play, because I think one of their previous ones, wasn't it Aliens Among Us?
Yeah.
Previous box sets, something like that.
Yeah.
Some blurb from Big Finish then. It has been renounced as returning, but this time the team is ready for its greatest threat. They'll be fighting an alien god in the fiery start to Series 6. A little bit of blurb. So the producer on this one, James Goss, says, "We had such a great reaction to Series 5. It's been a delight getting the cast back together to do more. Now things are established, the stories are more standalone. Seeing Torchwood face some tough challenges, a plague of sleep, a city that goes blind, organising a funeral, and then there's an alien god to deal with." Mr. Barrowman says that they are really great stories in Series 6. They really move the narrative forward. I find all over the world, from Puerto Rico to Paris, from London to Pensacola, Florida to South America, they are huge Torchwood fans, and the audience is always growing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that John Barrowman really tried to plug to the BBC before. I remember him saying, look, wherever I go in the world, there's always tons of Torchwood fans. Yeah. And they always say to me, when is Torchwood coming back? So that's what I mean. This must be a great outlet for John Barrowman to have his Torchwood baby, because it is his thing. I know that Russell T Davies created this as a spin-off and stuff, but overall, John Barrowman, he's like the leading man. He's the guy that loves his character. He absolutely loves Captain Jack.
I was going to say he loves that part, doesn't he? Yeah.
So it's really cool to see him, and it's really cool that the way they do it as well. If you look at some of John Barrowman's Instagram videos and stuff, when they were recording the story Believe, he was in Florida somewhere recording his part.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he was in his studio over there. They had other people in London doing their bit or whatever it is. And they sort of, managed to sort of direct it well enough to put it together. And it's really cool. So Series 6, October, it's up for pre-order already. It's the usual web special prices from Big Finish. So if you want the CD box set, it's £28. Or if you want just the digital, it's £25. October.
Yeah, that sounds really good, doesn't it? I mean, I need to catch up with some of this stuff. I mean, Big Finish output's incredible.
It is.
It's so hard to keep up with, but I've heard really good stuff about the Tortured releases, and it's good to see it going from strength to strength.
Indeed.
Talking of audiobooks, BBC audiobooks continue their range with the TV stories coming out, being read by actors, and the next one coming up, which I think is in November, was it? Yep, it's scheduled for November the 1st this year, is Kaiser Androzani, and it's going to be read by the Fifth Doctor himself, Peter Davison, which is cool because they often get like it's not often we get the Doctor himself reading the audiobooks these days. I think Tom Baker did a few some time ago now. I'm pretty sure he did Brain of Morbius.
Ages ago.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, but we normally get like companions reading them and stuff, which is all really good. They do very good job. Sophie Eldred's very good at reading the Seventh Doctor ones. But yeah, it's nice to see that Peter's come back to read. And I think it's because he loves this story, doesn't he, Peter? He regards it, like a lot of us, as one of his best, if not the best. So that's going to be good. It's currently says it's £20 on Amazon. No doubt the price will go up and down between now and November. But it's good, isn't it? I mean, I've got a few of these. I've got a lot of the BBC audiobooks, actually. I tend to cherry pick them because so many come out. But this one appeals to me quite a lot because I do love Kaiser Androzani. It's a good story. And it was novelised by Terence Dicks as well, who I always think he is great at taking the story elements and making them nice and a nice read, if you like. He makes it very accessible. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's 1st of November, apparently.
Yeah, is this one for you, mate? Do you think you might grab this?
Absolutely. Yeah, pre-order for me.
Yeah.
Looks very good. A fantastic story and read by the Doctor, as you said. Yeah. Last bit of merch. You guys any of the collectors among you who have been collecting the range of DVDs that have been put out by Real Time Pictures over the last year or so, just titled The Doctors. They've gone from, Hartnell, Troughton, Pertwee and Baker. They're releasing a new one called The Doctor's Villains. And it's meet the actors who played the villains from TV's top science fiction series.
Oh, right.
Apparently. I'd agree with that. So this is out again in November the 5th. And I can't comment too much on these because I haven't picked any up yet, but I know that you've got all of the other DVDs called The Doctors.
I have, yeah.
So I assume this is one for you.
Oh, it absolutely is, because they're actually really good and they're normally really well priced as well. So is this they're normally this is a 2-disc set as well. So all the previous ones have been 2-disc sets and they normally retail for around £10, which I think is brilliant value. I can only assume it's because the interviews themselves can be quite old. I think they were done in perhaps the 80s, 90s, possibly. They've remastered them. So the picture quality is certainly watchable, if not like high def like you might expect from today's interviews, but they are really interesting. And I've just picked up, they've just released the 7th Doctor one, the Sylvester McCoy years, which I've just picked up. I haven't had a chance to actually watch much of it yet, but that's got like interviews with Sylvester and who else is on there? Lisa Barrowman, and they're always really good value. Like I said, for £10 you can't go wrong. They did one recently called The Doctors, The Monsters, which sounds very similar to this, where they talked about people that had played Daleks and Yetis and all that sort of stuff. And you sort of think, well, have they got much to say about the show? It was a great DVD. I really enjoyed watching it because you sort of think, well, they're not really actors. I don't really know the name that well. Are they going to be as good as the other ones? So if this is anything like that, Yeah, I'm definitely getting it. We don't know who's on it. The cover's got a picture of Roger Delgado, Dan Ross. Who was the other guy on that? Omega. So it doesn't actually say who's been interviewed on it, but if it's those guys, amazing.
It's got what's his name from Pyramids of Mars.
It's not. I can't think of the name.
Scaraman, yeah. It does look very cool.
It does.
It does look very cool. And it's I'm like I said, I'm yet to pick these up because based on your recommendation, they're very good. But yeah,
you can't go wrong for the price, mate. They are, honestly, as I said, some interviews are better than others, but they're great value, and the interviews are always really interesting. Nick Briggs does a lot of the interviewing on them as well. So
cool.
Yeah, I really recommend these.
Yeah, and again, that will be out. That's up for pre-order now. It's $14.99, and I think they normally drop to about $9.99 after a few months, don't they?
I was going to say, yeah, it's weird. Amazon always seem to have them for $14.99. They do drop, but then they seem to go back up on Amazon. I tend to get mine from Galaxy 4, normally sell them for $9.99 free delivery, or I go to HMV or FOP that normally have them for £10 or $9.99. Yeah. So, yeah, if you're anywhere near a HMV and FOP, they do tend to get them for that price, so it's a bit cheaper.
Yeah, Galaxy 4 is a cool website, actually.
Yeah, they get a lot of the real-time DVDs and stuff, and they're normally free delivery on DVDs as well. So,
indeed, any listeners that want to check out, you can get loads of books and DVDs and all sorts from those guys. It's Galaxy4, as in the number 4.co.uk. Go and check them out.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, I think on the upcoming season 12 Blu-ray box set, isn't the Tom Baker years actually as one of the special features? I think
it's a different thing. It's a different thing. Yeah. It's quite confusing because they've got the same name. Yeah. The Tom Baker years. It's on the upcoming Blu-ray is something else. You're gonna love it. It's basically an early version of Gogglebox. It's Tom watching all the clips, but not remembering a thing. Yeah. It's brilliant. Yeah.
Rightio. That's merch.
Yes.
News and merch done. It's time for review. What are we doing this week, buddy?
So, Sarah Jane this week, and it's Warriors of Kudlak.
Have all these kids really gone missing?
Me and Mr. Kudlak run a special competition for the more skilled competitors.
This is wicked. It's like Premier League for laser tag.
Do you think you're man enough to have a go?
Soon you shall have all the children you need.
24 children have disappeared recently.
All cities where there's a combat 3000.
Don't worry about them, Miss Smith.
The ultimate warrior of the future is always on guard for a surprise attack.
Perhaps I can help. Goodbye, Miss Smith.
Looks like things are finally picking up round here.
You're a disgrace to your own species, Grantham.
Kids from all over the country must have been going missing.
I doubt that men like you fare too well in prison.
Well, what's with all this warrior stuff? All we did was win a game of laser tag. Oh yeah, we rock.
It's not Kudlak that calls all the shots.
Whatever's going on across the galaxy has got nothing to do with us.
Prepare the recruits for transportation to the front.
Yes, mistress.
Kudlak doesn't see it like that.
Oh, I'll be back, Mr. Grantham. I'll be back.
She will be.
She will be.
Yes. So, Warriors of Kudlak from Sarah Jane Adventures. It was first broadcast in October 2007. It was written by Phil Gladwin, directed by Charles Martin, and it stars obviously Liz Sladen, Sarah Jane, and then Yasmin Page, Tommy Knight, Daniel Anthony, and Alexander Armstrong as Mr. Smith. And the story is there's a new kind of kids quasar / laser tag type of game that's popped up in Cardiff. Oh, no, it's not Cardiff, is it?
No, it's supposed to be London, Ealing or somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in London. I'm getting confused with Torchwood.
Mm-hmm.
So this laser tag, like the sort of laser gun type of...
Laser Quest
type of thing has popped up. But there's a sort of sinister underground sort of motive going on. The guy that runs it, Mark Grantham, who has been sort of accosted by Kudlak and his mistress to snatch children from this laser quest, but they have to be like good at the game in order to be snatched. They want their kind of motives for this are they want to build sort of an army of the future, if you like, and they think that these children who are good at laser quest are the best in the business, apparently. So that's, their qualification is you have to be good at laser quest. So these kids are getting kidnapped straight out of the laser quest, and Sarah Jane and Maria and Luke and Clyde are on the case to try and get them back, and it all ends in really fun sort of teleportation up to the alien ship that's in orbit around the Earth. They uncover a sort of conspiracy against Kudlak that he wasn't aware of, and then they get returned home safe and sound. Warriors of Kudlak, what are you saying?
I just want to give Mr. Kudlak a big hug.
Yeah.
No, I tell you what, I just found this a very enjoyable little two-parter. Actually, I'm really enjoying this ride through the Sarah Jane Adventures. I did go back and watch Eye of the Gorgon because, of course, I missed the review, and I think that's the stronger story. So I watched that one before I watched this one. I really enjoyed Eye of the Gorgon. But this is still good. It didn't quite have. It's a simpler story. It's a very sort of simple story. But I just found it fun, and there's some nice character progression between Luke and Clyde. They're starting to bond and stuff, and Sarah Jane and Maria also starting to bond. And I just think the series is progressing brilliantly. So the characters are really likable, and you're getting these nice little stories, and you're getting interesting characters like Mr. Kudlak, who's like, you think he's a baddie, but he's actually, there's part of him that's, quite well-meaning. He's just been misled. So there's a nice little twist at the end where he finds out, and you almost feel sorry for him. So I really enjoyed this, mate. I thought it was good. It was, it's not going to, I wouldn't say it's like the best story I've ever seen, but it was a nice, simple, very easy watch. Yeah, I really liked it.
Cool. Yeah, kind of agree with you there, mate. It's a much simpler story, this one.
Yes,
and an enjoyable watch, no less. Still enjoyable. Yeah, I just found this one, and that's the thing with Sarah Jane, and you constantly have to remind yourself that this is not aimed at an adult market. So you do have to sort of adjust your, not expectation, but you have to adjust your sort of views on it as you approach it and watch it and so on. So from a kids show perspective, it's, still very, very good, great for younger viewers. This one, I just found it a bit of a sort of a shallow motive, if you like, for kidnapping these kids. It seems strange that, these, and the characters in this, so this, Kudlak and these warriors and so on, they almost reminded me a little bit of the Sycorax,
Oh, right, yeah.
In terms of like this kind of warrior race, And I can't remember how to pronounce it. It's something like Uvdani, the Uvdani race or something like that.
Yeah.
The Yovodni. Yeah, that's it. And they remind me of like this, because the way that the mistress ends up, telling the story almost is that, there's been a war that's been going on for, hundreds of years, whatever. And the Sycorax, it reminded me of that, this kind of war species, very much up for us, dishing some slaps out and so on.
Yeah.
But I just found that didn't quite marry up with what they were trying to achieve. So if you were that kind of race and you were warriors and, your race is at war at the time and you want to try and end the war and by defeating the other side, it doesn't seem right that you would go and, kidnap kids. I can kind of get what they would see. It's like they want to try and sort of capture these like very smart, able, combat ready kids who perhaps could grow up to be good warriors and that sort of thing. I kind of get it, but I just thought that you would go after like, already, hardened.
Or like the army or something. Yeah,
army people. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
So
right, yeah.
I found that like I found it like a little bit of a shallow story in terms of the details, but that didn't really detract too much. I still found it quite an enjoyable watch. It was just I didn't come away from this one thinking, oh my God, this was like, Sarah Jane at its best. It was just a decent sort of enjoyable watch, really.
Yeah, it's definitely I agree with you. It's definitely a very simple story. I mean, following on from the Gorgon, which had some really nice new ideas in it, I mean, in that story, I loved it when people were turning to stone and you had a whole garden of stone people. And it was much more, there's a lot more going on in that story, where this is very much back to basics storytelling. Yeah, so I do know what you're saying. Enjoyable nonetheless, but it's nothing groundbreaking or standout from this story. It's just like you said, it's just sort of an easy watch, 50-minute watch, really. Some nice scenes in it, I think, which bring the episode up, because the storyline itself, you're right, is pretty thin. But it's the other moments in the story that I thought were good, and also I do love this character, Mr. Kudlak. I just love this alien, in his blimmin' red velvet jacket. I love characters like this. It's ludicrous and it's just brilliant. And I've got to say, the mask on him is great.
Very good, isn't it?
It's very good, because there's loads of close-up shots of it, and the eyes move and the mouth. It's really cool. I mean, the design may be a bit thing, but it's just really well made. I kind of wonder if they spent all their money on that, though, because the other guys in the episode are just wearing crash helmets. And I kept thinking, well, who are they? What are they supposed to be? Them underneath? I wasn't quite sure. It seemed like they didn't have any. Yeah, it seemed like they didn't have any money to do some masks or anything. So everyone's wearing a crash helmet. And also when we get to see the mistress on the screen, it's clearly the same. It's the same mask, isn't it? Because they're never in the same room at the same time. So it's a bit sus. But I mean, that's a budget thing. You can't, like you said, this was made for it was CBBC, wasn't it? Children's television. So we can't expect Doctor Who budget standards. But I will say, I think the mask looks fantastic.
Yeah. What's with the what is with the kind of long coat dressing gown sort of thing that he was
I don't know, but I love it.
Don't get me wrong, it's got a certain sort of charm to it, I guess, but that was something else that I couldn't quite wrap my head around. Again, it's advertised as being the sort of warrior race and so on, but then he's got this sort of full length
smoking jacket.
It almost looks kind of like a cross between a Pertwee jacket and a Capaldi jacket. It's
yes, yeah.
I just couldn't. That was something else that I really. Maybe I'm missing something there. Maybe there's a reason why he's wearing that, but I honestly couldn't make the connection as to any reason why he would wear it. It's very bizarre.
It is bizarre,
because I would have thought that he would be in armor based. This sort of alien, almost like the film Predator.
Yeah.
It's got like the sort of bones on a chain, some rope around its neck, and some armor pieces and stuff like that. I almost expected. I would have thought something like that would be more suited to his character, because up until like the last 5 minutes, he's very much a sort of hardened, celebrated warrior, and so again, it's something else that didn't quite make sense in my and like I said, I'm probably missing something. There's probably
I think it might be a budget thing, mate, and I think you're absolutely right. It doesn't look, you can't imagine him having a fight in that jacket. He'd have to take that jacket off. He'd have to do it in proper, right, you want a piece of me? You'd have to do it in that sort of, taking the jacket off, he means business. Because he might have a round of bullets under that jacket. We just don't know. No, I think it's a budget thing, mate. I think they've just we've made the mask. It looks brilliant. We can't really do the rest of the body. Let's give him a big old coat. That's he looks good in that. It is ridiculous, but I love it because it's so ridiculous. Actually, talking of budget, although it does show a little bit in the story, I'll tell you something that I thought did look great. There's this sweeping shot, a CGI shot of the spaceship, and I can't remember what it kind of spins around the Earth or something. And I thought, blimey, that's good for a kids show. That's actually a really nice bit of CGI. That not there are other bits of CGI in it that don't stand up as well. But do you know there's that? I don't know if you remember. There's that one shot where it kind of like the camera kind of sort of pans around the spaceship and the Earth, and I thought that's really good for like, what year is it, 2007? And you know, considering the shot didn't add anything to story, so they didn't really need to have it. I just thought it was a really nice bit of CGI for this story. So, you know, maybe the budget went on that as well.
I tell you what, mate, that bit of CGI, that was better than the Impossible Planet and the base on.
Actually, it was.
It was, for sure.
A very nice bit of work on that, yeah.
Very cool. Story-wise then, like we said, fairly simplistic, nothing
very
too
simple,
crazy going on. Before we get on to characters and stuff, again, this felt like, I've said the same thing about the last few Sarah Jane stories that we've done. It does feel very much still as a Doctor Who production to me, even though they haven't got the same amount of pennies that the main show had. This still feels like, I don't know, it almost feels like they've got a large amount of the same crew that worked on Doctor Who to do this, because you know, just the way it looks and the way it feels like, you know, the same camera rigs and the production team and the people working on it. And I love that about it. I love that it's got that, that it matches the world of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Whether that's intentional or not, it just feels like we're watching something that's Doctor Who related. You know, and I know that Sarah Jane, you know, she's the main sort of driver and she carries it through, you know, and brings that Doctor Who over to it. But yeah, I feel like this, even though it was a simple story, I like the, you know, the pacing of these Sarah Jane stories, and, you know, the way they're edited. They feel very Who-esque, very Russell. It feels very early RTD, which it is, of course, but it just feels like, you know, Eccleston could walk through the door at any second and it wouldn't look out of place. It looks like, you know, a similar thing. So I like that about this this series. I haven't seen too much of the other Sarah Jane series. I've seen the odd episode littered through them, so I can't remember if that carries through. I think it does. I think it does still have that vibe. But yeah, I like how these, especially these Series 1 stories, look and feel. Certainly no complaints in terms of how they're edited. The pacing's fairly decent. It intermingles. One thing that's good with most of Doctor Who, actually, but especially the RTD era, is this wonderful way of sort of having this really cool adventure that you're on with these characters. And, you know, sometimes it's sort of action paced and there's things going on. There's people running, there's action scenes. But, you know, this wonderful way of just stopping the stories dead just for a scene. And in this one, it's the scene where Luke and Clyde, you know, when Luke runs out because he feels like he's
messed up.
He's like bullied this kid and now he's gone missing. He feels like it's his fault, and then Clyde runs after him. There's a lovely scene when they're at the park afterwards.
Yeah.
And they're having a chat, you know, so it slows everything down, but it doesn't bring it to a stop and you feel, right, I've lost, you know, the momentum of the story. Because once that scene's done, we then pick everything back up and it's back on track. And I love that about Who. And I'm sure that's a Russell T Davies influence, because he's so good at those character scenes where, because remember, we're still building Luke's character at this point.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. We're still, you know, he's still finding his feet in terms of what's socially acceptable. You know, he's trying to build a human personality for himself so that he can fit in and mix in with everybody else of his age and so on. So he's still sort of clumsy with it, isn't he? He's making jokes that aren't quite suited at the time, and he's doing things. So, and then Clyde's obviously, as we know, he's very street cred and, you know, he knows what's going on. So it's really nice to have those scenes where those character integrations are happening alongside like the big space adventure stuff that's going on. So in terms of story and pacing, editing and stuff, again, I've got no complaints. Did you find any problems with that, or did you just feel like, oh, this is the cool sort of Sarah Jane?
No. I mean, that's why I'm enjoying watching this series so much, is because like you, I haven't seen any of this. I think I've only seen a handful of Sarah Jane, so it's all fresh to me, and it's really untaxing on the brain, and I mean that in a good way. It just reminds me of the stuff I used to watch as a kid that had a good mix of, you know, slightly darker tones, but not too scary for the kids, a bit of fun, production value is good. It just reminds me of the quality shows that we had as kids. I mean, I don't know what the shows are like now for children, but I know we had some classic TV when we were growing up, and this to me reminds me of that. You can put it on. It's so different to sort of Torchwood, for example, in the terms that it does totally fit in with Doctor Who, but with Torchwood you kind of had to watch it a bit more and follow the story. This is just fun. I can put it on, and there might be the odd little scene that I think, oh, that's really touching, like you said, that scene between Luke and Clyde on the swing. It's a really nice little scene between the two of those guys, and then into the action, and then you got Mr. Cooldeck with his jacket and stuff, and it's just really good fun. Like you said, the story may not be that heavy, but it's perfect for just 50 minutes of television. I just really enjoyed it. So no, the pacing and everything was fine for me. I was really happy just sat there watching it. Just like, nothing too strenuous. It's just fun. And I agree with you. I can imagine, I could totally imagine Eccleston walking in on any of these stories we've watched so far. It really does fit into the Who universe perfectly. I noticed in Gorgon, Eye of the Gorgon, there were a couple of little name drops. I think the Sontaran's got a mention. I was like, okay, right. So again, some nice little nods. I don't remember if there was any in this. I certainly didn't make a note of it if there was, but yeah, it fits perfectly alongside Who. It's the brilliant little younger sort of Doctor Who spin-off, if you like. And then you got Torchwood, the other side of it. I just love the three together. Sarah Jane, Doctor Who, Torchwood. It's just a brilliant, sort of three different moods there. It's brilliant.
I know that Sarah Jane mentions Unit in this.
Oh, yes, that's right.
I think that's about it in terms of sort of name drops and so on.
Do you know the bit I really loved as well, which again reminds me of sort of shows I loved as kids, was Sarah Jane builds this funny machine that they push up the hill to expose the whatever it is in the sky, and it's just a really beautiful design. And I thought, I love it when like the Doctor or Sarah Jane or somebody makes a gadget or a device, and and it just, the whole look of it and what it did was, again, it's just like very simple, but I love stuff like that. It's just fun. It was
really cool, actually. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I
love that gadget.
That felt like a kind of Pertwee moment, didn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it just reminded me. I thought, oh, that's so classic and so simple and brilliant.
Yeah. It really felt like, when Pertwee just tinkers with things and is making stuff. It felt like, it almost. I'm pretty sure this is not intentional, but it almost feels like, this is that sort of stuff has maybe rubbed off on Sarah Jane. So, she's up for inventing things and tinkering with stuff. And it's really cool. It's really quirky. It's not like, because a lot of times, you just see like a silver box with a button on it or a few levers, and that's your lot. Whereas this was like this big, almost like a steampunk sort of gothic design sort of thing with these big, it was very, some might say out of place, but I would say it was awesome. It was a real nice little nod to sort of the classic years when the Doctor did tinker and, make stuff and reversing polarity, all that stuff. It felt very much like that. So that was awesome. That was.
You're absolutely right. I love the idea that a bit of that's rubbed off on Sarah Jane, that she's up in that attic building all these things. I think that's such a great little vision. Actually, just before we move off the story, mate, you just made me think actually that although it is a simple story, one thing I do like about it is it does kind of make a comment on the dangers and of playing these sort of war games, because that's something that's quite relevant today actually.
Right.
But it doesn't do it in a sort of obvious shoving it down your throat type way. It just sort of, it uses Luke, this character who's very what's the word, he's very innocent, isn't he?
Naive in the ways of the world.
Because he's asking Clyde, isn't he, so you play games where you kill each other, why would you want to play games where you're killing someone? And I think that's a really important subject, and as I said, they don't hammer it home, but it's just there, it's kind of what the story's about a little bit, isn't it? It's this sort of, why do we use children to sort of, why do we bring children up to sort of be warriors? And there is a deeper meaning there if you want it. And I like that, because I actually think that's a a really important thing. I don't want to sort of go on a tangent, but there was something on the news about it yesterday about this game that all the kids are playing where they have to kill people to collect points. And I do find it bizarre, as somebody who doesn't like violence at all, I do find it bizarre that we have kids and games where we kill people and it's entertainment, because in this day and age, I don't know, I do think it's really odd. So although it is a simple story, I love the fact that they use Luke's sort of naivety to bring that home, to say, you know, well, hang on, we should question why we're playing games where we're going around shooting each other and stuff. So yeah, it's a simple story, but I like the fact it has got a slightly good sort of undertone to it that has a proper meaning, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I read you. And that's one of the cool things about shows like this is it can kind of get the message across without being preachy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, or trying to be too, because kids don't react, not all kids anyway, but, you know, kids don't really react well to being, you know, you must do this, or you must, you know, kids like to, you know, as they should, you know, figure stuff out by themselves. And, you know, so when, and I can just imagine, you know, when this first went out, you know, younger kids who are watching this, hopefully taking a little slice of that on board, because kids are really smart, you know, and I think that's one of the things about writing TV shows, which is so difficult, especially for children, because, you know, sometimes people can sort of brush under the carpet all these little nuances that go into writing a script for a TV show. It's so difficult. And that's one of the things that really winds me up about fandom sometimes, is where, you know, a story goes out or a series is out and the writers just get absolutely, you know, they get you know, from the fans, they get beat up so badly. But I tell you what, say, you know, a majority of vocal fans, you know, who seem to step up, you know, behind their computers, I might add, you know, and really sort of rage at, you know, certain writers for TV. I can guarantee 99% sure that if you pluck them out from behind their computer and put them in a BBC office and say, right, you write it, you know, you sit down and you write a better story, it'd be a disaster.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's so important, especially for kids. And I know Doctor Who's similar as well. Doctor Who is aimed at kids as well, obviously. But having a responsibility as a writer to say, right, you know, we want to get this message across, but we don't want to put it in their faces. But, you know, we've got something we want to say, basically. And I'm not saying that that's the reason why they wrote the story. They're not trying to put some political message out there and wrap it in Sarah Jane. It's just about having that responsibility. Like, right, we are writing a show for kids, so let's try and sort of put that message in there that they can understand and gets processed in their mind, but it doesn't feel like they're being told what to do. And I feel that's so important. And I always miss that. Every single time when I'm just watching something, I always miss that point of view. Because we used to have it years ago. So I was born in 1980, and as I grew up, by the end of the 80s, early 90s, I'd gone through so many cartoons, and so like Saturday morning cartoons and all the rest of it. And anyone who's our age group who grew up through that will remember that so many cartoons used to reinforce the message at the end. So things like He-Man and Marshall Bravestar and so many other cartoons, they'd have this like little 30-second bit at the end where they'll say, you know, in this episode, we had Orko the Wizard who didn't really find himself, you know, until at the end. So it's very important to treat your friends the correct way because you don't want to bully. Do you know what I mean? So we had that, the message through the story, and then they reinforced it at the end. But as sort of kids have got older and in a different generation, they don't really want to be told that directly. You know, they're smart enough to take it on. So I know I'm going on a bit here, but I think it's so important for kids shows. And that's what's great about Doctor Who and Sarah Jane, is that you can criticize the scripts and the stories as much as you want, but it must be so difficult to write all of these things into a, what is it, a 25-minute episode. That's the most difficult thing for me, is if you're writing a feature film, you've got quite a bit of time to get the story across. But when you've only got 25 minutes, I mean, admittedly, this is a two-parter, so you've got, what, just under an hour.
Yeah.
But you've got all of these things. So you've got the story, the characters, you've got like character arcs that are spanning across the series, not just the episode. You've got the alien threat, you've got Sarah Jane's relationship with the other characters, you've got the relationship in between the characters. But then inside all of that, like we said, we've got this message about not video games, but, as you said, kids and war games and stuff like that. So that must be incredibly difficult to do that in a way that's still entertaining, but delivers the message in a way that kids will take it on.
Yeah, without being sort of too preachy. Because I think they could have pushed it slightly more. I think it's definitely in there. As I said, it's mainly when sort of Luke's questioning it. So they could have pushed it further if they wanted to. But I like the fact it's there in the first place. It just might make sort of people think, why am I playing games where I kill people? It was a bit strange when you think about it. But yeah, like you said, it's not too preachy.
Yeah.
It's just there. I think it's enough to sort of put it in the mind.
Yeah. So waffled a bit there, but so I like the fact that that's in there, and then the rest of it, sort of story wise, it has that sort of classic sci-fi conclusion, really, because we know because that little scene where Kudlak has a conversation with the mistress, and he's like, "Oh, I'm tired. This war's been going on. I just want peace," and she's like, "No. War, more war." And he's like, "No, I'm tired." So you kind of get a little inkling that something's not quite right. Kudlak's, he's either ready to just go absolutely beep crazy and, go nuts, or he's just ready to throw the towel in and like, I've had enough. And then the conclusion towards the end is, it all comes out that the mistress is actually like an AI sort of computer thing that's fooled him into thinking that, the war's still going on. But, 10 years before that, it was all over and he could have returned home. And it was actually Luke that found it in the...
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because it's weird, isn't it? Because he's naive, but he's also really clever.
Yes.
It's Luke. I thought that was a nice twist, didn't you? Because I didn't see that coming, that it was just a computer, but they assumed the war would never end. So it was never programmed to have that function of... It was like a sort of game that didn't have the end bit programmed in. So the fact the war was over, it couldn't compute it because it'd never been programmed to have a message saying, "Oh, the war's over, you can go home now." It just kept saying, "No, the war is going on, you must keep going." I thought that was quite a nice little twist actually, because Kudlak's really, he can't believe it, can he? He's like, "No, the war's been over for 10 years." He's like, "No, it can't be true." So I thought that was a nice little twist at the end.
I did as well.
It was just a simulation. I didn't see that coming at all.
And a great little character to have in the show as well, because even at that point where you can tell that he's knackered from having to do this constantly and he doesn't really agree with it, he's still loyal to the cause, because even after that scene he still goes and tracks, because they escape, don't they, from their little cages, if you like, when they're up on the spaceship, and they sort of we have the typical corridor, running away down corridors and steel steps and everything. Even after all that, he still sort of, apprehends them, and he's still very much like, yep, you're going to be warriors, all the rest of it. It's not until the very end where Sarah Jane and Luke say to him, "Look, it's here in the computer. The war's done. Take a chill pill. It's all good." A really cool character to have in. Let's talk about characters, actually. So the Kudlak character was played by two different people. So...
Oh, was it?
Yeah, so Paul Casey, you'll know that name a lot from...
I was going to say, I know that name, yeah.
Especially Sarah Jane, but a lot of Doctor Who. He's a very popular guy that goes in the alien costumes a lot of the time and so on. So he played Kudlak and the Mistress, save a bit of money. But Kudlak was voiced by somebody else, somebody called Silas Carson, apparently.
Oh, right, okay.
You will recognise the name. He's been in... Crikey, mate. Let me just tell you a few of the things that he's been in.
Blimey.
Are you reading that right now? So
I've just clicked on the thing, yeah.
Yeah, so let's go back to Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace. He was also in Star Wars Episode 2. He was in The Walking Dead. He was in the film The Predator. He was in... he's been in Spooks. He's played the voice of loads of people in Doctor Who. He's the voice of the Ood. He's, just in loads of stuff. He's in Hustle, The Bill, the IT Crowd. What else has he been in? Holby City, The Casual Vacancy. He's been in EastEnders for a little bit. He's been in so many things, and I recognised his picture immediately when I saw him.
I guess I do as well. I don't recognise the name. I've never heard of him, but he does look familiar. Yeah.
So he was the voice of Kudlak, Silas Carson, and I'm sure he's been at Collectomania as well. I'm pretty
possibly,
sure.
Possibly, yeah.
So Kudlak then, very cool character. I think you'll agree.
I really liked him, mate. I love it when they get this balance of having an evil character that's also got another side to him. I thought that, it's done quite a lot, but yeah, I warmed quite a lot to Kudlak. I thought he was a pretty cool character. I wouldn't mind seeing him come back. I don't know if he does, but I'd happily see him again. What does happen to him at the end?
So he agrees to go back home and retrieve the kids who have already been sent to try and bring them back home, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he sacrifices himself, doesn't he? He's like, he bends down. He's like, take my life sort of thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
A great sort of crime against your planet. So, so a very cool character. I liked him.
He's got morals, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. He's not just an evil insect. He's a more rounded character than that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had, there's a couple of other people. We had Lance, one of the kids that went missing, Lance, his mum. There was quite a nice scene where Sarah Jane goes to see his mum, and because she's investigating what's going on. It's quite near the beginning.
She wasn't too bad, the mum, actually, because sometimes when you get I think we said this at Tortured, sometimes when you get a small part, because she probably only had about 20 lines, and also she's got to play the crying mum, you might think, sometimes you don't get a particularly good performance when you get the combination of those two. Yeah. Especially crying scenes, they can be very cringy. She was really good, actually. I thought she was quite believable as a mum who was, she was really upset she lost her son and please find him. And I just thought it's very easy to go over the top in those scenes and be like, please find my son, almost EastEnders style, where they always just act their way out of a paper bag. But she was quite good. I don't know I can't remember the character's name, so I don't know what her name is. But yeah, considering she's only in that small scene, I thought she was very good.
Yeah, a little bit of trivia. So when Sarah Jane goes to see Lance's mum, in Lance's room, there's a bunch of posters up on his wall, and they are posters of, the episode Blink?
Mm-hmm.
All of the DVDs that they mentioned in the DVD shop. What's his face? The guy who runs the DVD shop.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a lot of the DVDs. Lance has got posters of those films up on his wall.
Oh, I saw the posters. I didn't. Yeah. I couldn't connect what they were. I kept thinking, well, they're really obvious. They must be something.
Yeah.
Because they're really in your face. But I didn't realise that's what they were.
Yeah. So the DVDs that are mentioned in Blink by the guy, I can't remember that guy's name, who runs he ends up with,
Sally Sparrow.
Sally at the end, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but yeah.
And then Lance himself then, a bit of an East End boy, bit of a London lad, it seems like. He was very much all right, yeah, cool, yeah, all right, we're back home, yeah, laters.
Yeah, he was a bit. He was all right, wasn't he? But he's not going to win any acting awards. Yeah, he was okay. He wasn't in it that much anyway.
He was all right. Yeah. And then Luke gets a kiss off a young lady at the end.
Yeah.
What was her name? Jen, I think. Her name was Jen. Again, not too bad.
I'd put her on par with the other lad as well. They're both a bit actory. Yeah, they're okay. Not bad, but not again.
Yeah,
need a few more David Collins acting lessons before they can come back.
Possibly, yeah. And let's talk about Mr. Grantham then.
Mr. Grantham, he's a bit of a lad as well, isn't he?
Yeah, let me just tell you something, mate. Right. So, interesting name. The actor's name, Chuk Sibtain. You will recognise Chuk Sibtain if you are familiar with The Waters of Mars.
Is he in that?
He plays one of the guys on the in the research centre. He's one of the guys that gets turned by the water.
I didn't recognise him.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's in that. But in this story, he plays very much another sort of London-based bit of an underhanded schemer it seems. So he's in cahoots with Kudlak. He's kind of been employed, I suppose, because he does say to Sarah Jane at some point that he's in it for the money.
Yeah.
And he's a bit of he's almost likable. Almost likable in a way. Obviously, we can't disguise the fact that his main purpose in the story is to kidnap children. So you can't get away from that fact that that's obviously extremely bad. But he's almost likable in a way that you feel like, is he going to help Sarah Jane at some point? Because he does it, but under duress, doesn't he? He's like, I'll send you up to the ship and stuff. You won't come back, of course, but, and you almost think, is he going to go a step further and help out? Is he going to have some redemption? But, sadly, he just does a runner. But yeah, he's, he has a really cool scene with Sarah Jane, actually, when Sarah Jane and Maria are in his office snooping around.
Oh, yeah.
He catches them. Yeah, he catches them and he holds them up at gunpoint, and it's really cool, the sort of to-in and throw-in between him and Sarah Jane, because she immediately clocks what's going on. She's like, I've had guns pointed at me before.
Yeah.
And she's like, even alien guns. And, he thinks, that he's just some snooping reporter. Like an April O'Neil sort of thing. But then, she's like, I've got your number, mate. I know what's going on. And he's like, oh, crap. So, yeah, some really cool sort of to-in and throw-in between those two. And she zaps him with the old sonic lipstick.
The sonic lipstick, yeah.
Yeah, a bit of lippy. But overall, I thought, obviously a bad character, not a nice character to have in a story. But in terms of his performance, I thought he was not too bad. He was a little bit EastEnders, should I say.
Yeah, he was in EastEnders.
And I mean that in not a good way, because I don't really like EastEnders, but he was a little bit EastEnders, but not too bad, almost likable, borderline.
He was, I was going to say, he's one of those sort of villains that's also a bit comical at times. I thought his performance varied, actually, because sometimes I thought he was really good. Like you said, I like the scene with Sarah Jane and stuff, and he was quite funny in parts, and in other bits he went a little bit too pantomime villain for my liking.
A little bit.
I thought overall though he was quite good. I did like him. I don't know, I just kind of thought he's given the sort of performance that he was almost really good, but it just didn't, I don't know, sort of other scenes he wasn't so good. It was I felt he could have been slightly better, but he wasn't bad. I did think he was quite fun in the scenes he's in. Yeah,
definitely. And he references Star Wars. There was a couple of Star Wars references in this as well.
Oh, right.
I don't know if you picked up on them. So there's a bit where he's been, he breaks into Sarah Jane's home, and then they sort of, they tie his wrists and they take him back to the Laser Quest place. And he's being quite sarcastic. He's like, oh, so you want me to send you off to a galaxy far, far away? Something like, a galaxy far, far away, which is a bit of a Star Wars reference. And then, but earlier on in the episode, I think it's Luke and Clyde, between them, they say something to do with Star Wars as well. And for the life of me, which would be no surprise, I can't remember what it was. But they definitely reference some other Star Wars. There's a couple of times they do it, which is what I found interesting.
I mean, in scenes like that, he was really good. That's what I mean when I say he's varied. Like those scenes, I thought he was really fun and a good sort of villain. Because, like you said, he was quite a rounded character as well. It wasn't just plain damn right evil. He also had this sort of comedy side. A bit of a sort of cheeky villain, wasn't he? A bit of a cheeky chappy. So, yeah, he was quite fun, really.
He was, yeah. That's annoying me now, that other Star Wars reference.
I didn't pick up on it.
I think it's Clyde. I think because Clyde makes a reference, an obvious one, to Star Trek.
Ah, right.
Because he mentions Captain Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, but he also makes a reference to Star Wars, and it's bloody annoying me that I can't remember what it is.
You'll have to watch it again.
Yeah, anyways. He was quite cool. And then what about the main cast? So let's talk about Luke and Clyde, because they're sort of together in it throughout pretty much the whole story.
They are,
really.
yes.
So like I said earlier, some more character progression. We got Luke sort of figuring out, because at the beginning he's with Maria and he's testing out one of his jokes and doesn't really go too well. But after that, Clyde sort of chases after him, and then the two of them go off to Laser Quest and they get captured and so on. And they escape almost together when they're on the alien spacecraft. So I think those two work pretty well together. I like the contrast between the naive Luke and, he's still got, a million questions about people in general. And then you've got Clyde, who sort of almost loses patience all the time. He tries to tell him what the correct bit of slang might be for something, and he still doesn't get it, and he's like rolling his eyes. And so I quite like those two characters together. I think
I do as well. Yeah, I was going to say the contrast is brilliant, and again the sort of character progression from both of them is really good. They're really fun together. It's a great end scene as well, isn't it? When he's like, Luke says to Clyde, "Can you teach me about girls?" And he's like, "Oh my god," It's just there's some good scenes between those two. I think they work really well. Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah, Maria. So they seem to pair off because Luke and Clyde are together, and then Sarah Jane and Maria. They seem to be together. And interestingly enough, we don't see any of Maria's dad in this one.
No,
don't see her mum. It's just those guys doing their thing. What do you reckon to Maria in this one?
She's I don't know actually. She's not as good as because do you remember in the first, not the pilot, but when she first comes into it, and I was saying actually for a young actor, she's pretty believable. She's quite good. She seems to be getting a little bit. She's still good, but she's going a little bit kid acty, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like she was very believable in the first few episodes, like dealing with all the stuff with her, mum and dad, and I remember saying she's a good little actor. Yasmin Page, isn't it? But I don't know, in this one, I don't know if it's just because of the way she's written. She's really good when she's with Sarah Jane.
Right.
Like they work really well together, a bit like Luke and Clyde. There's some really lovely scenes between those two. But I don't know, she's not bad, but she's sort of going a little bit child actory in some scenes. I've noticed. I can't really explain it. I don't know if you know what I mean. Just the way she's delivering her performance is not as believable as I found it in the first couple of episodes. It's as if she's kind of going with the flow a little bit. I don't know if you know what I mean, but yeah, she's still good. Just not. I don't know. I'm not warming to her in the same way that I'm liking sort of Clyde and Luke's, progression. With Maria, she's getting a little bit like in the last episode where she's like crying and throwing a tantrum and then storming out the room, and I don't know, it's just not, her character progression isn't as good as the others, I don't think yet. But I liked the other scenes with Sarah Jane and her. They worked very well together because Sarah Jane's got that very motherly instinct, doesn't she? The way she talks to her and looks after her and stuff like that. And so they're good together. But I don't know, when she's left to deal with stuff on her own, she's not shining as brightly as the others. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, I read you. I preferred Luke and Clyde in this one.
Yeah.
Because although Maria was quite cool, there's some really nice scenes, like when her and Sarah Jane go up on top of the hill with that device.
Brilliant.
That's really nice
Lovely.
scene. But Maria does get a little bit, I don't know what the best word to use, really. There's a scene where she's like really miffed that Luke and Clyde have been kidnapped. And Sarah Jane's like, "Oh, don't worry." And, she's like really answering back and shouty. And it's like, like slow down just a little bit here. Sarah Jane's here to help.
Yeah.
She's not your enemy sort of thing. Just calm down. So I found a couple of times she was a little bit like, a younger, more immature version of herself that we'd seen in the previous episodes thus far. Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of what I mean. Yeah. That's a good way of summing up what I was trying to say. Yeah.
And then Sarah Jane.
Oh, Sarah Jane. She's so comfortable in this role, isn't she? She's lovely, and I like the fact she seems to be becoming more confident in her in sort of getting stuck into the action, if you like, every week. She's absolutely rocking and rolling is the best way I can put it. As Sarah Jane. Yeah,
I like that she's really hands on with everything as well. So when they're up in the attic and Maria's like, "Oh, we should do," she's got like these, welding materials and equipment and everything, and she's like, "Maria, don't touch that unless you've got gloves on," and blah blah blah. And Maria's like, "Okay, but shouldn't we just be doing this?" And she turns around and Sarah Jane's got this massive welding mask on and a massive blowtorch, and she's just into it. She's just doing everything, and like you said, the action, she's a bit more sort of up for it as well.
Yeah. That's what I mean about some great scenes in this. Like even with the sort of storyline being a bit thin, you get scenes like that. Where she's just brilliant. Is Sarah Jane? I love all the gadget making and stuff. I think She really suits that sort of. I'd love to go in that attic. I would just love to go and have a look in the attic. First thing I'd do is try and find K9. Where is he?
He's still not around,
He's still in that cabinet.
Yeah.
Oh, when's he coming out?
I know, little sod.
Because we get this massive fanfare every time Mr. Smith comes out. We have this like 30-second. They do it every week, don't they?
Yeah.
It's like this big fanfare every time he opens. And I'm thinking, he's not that impressive.
I know, it's like this, but it's like Mr. Smith, I need you, and then it's all these different camera angles. Yeah, it's like, I think it's just meant to hammer home like she's got this amazing supercomputer in her house, and you haven't got one. Kids, you haven't got one. We've got one. And Alexander Armstrong doing a decent job of the voice as well.
Oh yeah, he's cool. Yeah.
So before we move on to scores, just very quickly, a couple more bits of trivia that I found really cool. So in the attic, Sarah Jane's got a poster or an art print up on the wall of the Cybermen from the what's the David Tennant two-parter, the Age of Steel, is it?
Age of Steel, yeah.
And something else. So those design of Cybermen, they're up on a poster, tucked away, if you look for it.
I think I noticed the spaceship from City of Death. I'm not sure if it was. It looked like it to me. I meant to freeze frame it and I didn't. But yeah, it looked like that. But the one that blows up Scaroff's ship.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure I spotted that on the wall.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or probably. Yeah.
But I didn't spot the Cybermen.
And just very quickly, you said you'd like to see the what are they called, the Yavodni race, the Kudlak dude, come back. They make a very, very brief appearance in the Pandorica Opens.
Do they?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. I should when we haven't reviewed that, so remind me to look out for that. Yeah. Remind me, like me and you are going to remember that. But
yes.
But yeah, we'll have to try and remember because that would be cool to spot him. I bet he's like, bet it's very hard to spot.
Yeah, I can't wait to do that story. Because it's the big drunken-esque Matt Smith speech, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah. We'll get round to it.
We will. So anything else you want to mention, mate, before we score this one up?
No, just that it does mention on Wiki about the number of Sarah Jane's address, which I did spot, but couldn't work out why I was like, I saw the number on the door, and I remember sort of thinking that something don't seem right there. Because I thought the number on the door was 25. Because all the way through in the series, they have this thing, don't they? Of 13 Bannerman Road. I think it goes on from series 2. So they say here that the number on her door in this one's apparently 21, and it's got 21 on her cards that she had. Yeah. But then it must change to 13 somewhere along the way.
I think series 2 onwards, it's 13. Pretty sure.
See, it always surprises me when they do stuff like that, because if it's already been seen on screen, I'd kind of think to myself, oh, bit late now. Why change it from 21 to 13? It's a bit like Friends. If you ever watched the early episodes of Friends, their apartment is like 5 and 6, I think, and then suddenly in series 2 or 3 it changes to like 30 and 29, and you're like, hang on a minute. Like, it's the same apartment, but you've changed the number. It's weird. I don't like it when they do stuff like that. Yeah, it just seems odd.
The previous continuity person was fired.
Gone.
And they didn't do a handover properly with the new person.
13 Bannerman Road.
Whiff, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, scores. I think it's me to go first.
Okay.
I am going to give this a 6.5.
I thought you would. Yes. I'm slightly up. I'm giving it a 7.
A 7. Okay.
Yeah. I find it very enjoyable. Yeah.
Cool.
I think let's have a look. We're pretty solid at the minute. So 7. You gave 8.5 to Eye of the Gorgon. I'd agree with that. I think that's the strongest so far.
I think so. Yeah.
And then this is a 7 as well. Yeah. So pretty solid so far, this series.
Pretty much, yeah. What did our beautiful listeners think? Over on Twitter, we did our poll, and you guys said 89% in the likey camp, and only 11% said stinky.
That's good.
Which is cool. We had a couple of comments on Twitter. Cindy Lou Hoovian says she loves it. It takes on big topics like war and kidnapping, plus everyday squabbles and the meaning of friendship, all in a way that everyone can get. It doesn't condescend or sugarcoat. Neither is it too dark or scary. It's just great fun. Cute Star Trek references too. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Cool.
Crazy. TARDISnet 66 says, rewatching this story sent memories flooding back. Shows Luke at his best, as is given some great character development and tells a very relevant story about humanity's obsession with war and violence in games. And has a very good villain and a brilliant twist.
It's a good twist.
Thank you guys. Over on Facebook, Lewis Palmer says, welcome to the unique gaming experience that is Combat 3000. Those drones. That's the best line in all of the Who universe. I really like this one. It's a fun and creative adventure. That's an important step for Luke's character. It's not one of the best, but it's a good one. 7 out of 10. Miles McKenzie, I really like this one. It takes a normal thing and turns it into a threat. Luke's character development is great in this, with him trying to fit in. The overall development of the team is great too. I really enjoyed Sarah and Maria's character interaction. Luke and Clyde are also great with their character and friendship development. I actually quite like the twist at the end and the computer being a real villain, if a little rushed. Overall, a strong 8 out of 10.
Okay, good stuff.
Joseph Howarth, I'll be honest, I didn't see the first part of this episode, so when I caught the repeats of the second on BBC, I didn't get what was going on. Now that I've seen both parts, I can appreciate that the story took the idea of laser tag being a recruitment center for an alien race that's at war, and it's an ingenious idea. Good character development for Luke, and I love how he keeps on butchering slang words and Clyde has to keep correcting him. It goes on to say 8 out of 10. Jason Thayer lastly says, this was the start of making Luke one of my favourite characters. We had a couple of audio clips in. Let's go to Sammy Satine.
Hey, Gary and Adam, Sammy Satine here. So, the Warriors of Codlock. Kids getting kidnapped by aliens via a laser war game. It's an interesting concept, and this is a great execution of it. Something about this story doesn't quite gel with me, though, so I have to give it 6 Codlocks out of 10. However, I do really like the bits where Sarah Jane is interacting with Maria, and I felt very sorry for poor Lance's mother, but I'm glad she got him back in the end. That was great. See ya.
Cheers, Sammy.
Nice one, Sammy. It was great that she got him back, because I must admit, when I was watching this, I thought, are they going to do the happy ending for that character, or are they going to be ruthless and have his mum, lost her son? But it's a kid show after all.
It's a kid show.
And last audio clip. This is Jake Birtwhistle.
Hello yet again. It is I, Sir Jake of the Birtwhistle, back with another audio review. Warriors of Kudlak. It's okay. I remember liking this episode a lot more as a kid. I mean, what kid wouldn't? It's got bug-eyed monsters and laser tag. Of course I was going to like it, but it just doesn't make sense on a rewatch. So Kudlak and his mistress think it's a good idea to get soldiers by abducting children who are good at laser tag. Doesn't make sense one bit, but for the most part it's good. Besides that, and some of the acting is very questionable. I am going to give it 6 mistresses out of 10. Mistresses. Bye.
Out for a windy walk there by the sound of it.
Yeah, it's very... That's right, yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for your audio clips and so on. Did you have anything over on the Geeks Handbag?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I had a comment from our good friend Charlie Turner, who says... what does he say? Sorry, it's getting it to load. I had it ready. I was distracted.
Professional, as always.
Yeah, professional. Yeah. Charlie Turner says, one of my favourites, I must say, only nitpick I have with it is that Kudlak and his mistress look too much like generic aliens to him. If I was to design them, I'd be more creative personally. So he's going to give it a possible 8.5 or 9 out of 10. He can't decide. So somewhere between 8.5 and 9. I quite like the design, but I know what he means. They look like big ants creatures, don't they? But I know what he means about design, but it does look good up close. I mean, it did a great job making it.
I thought so. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
So that was Warriors of Kudlak. Thank you so much for all of your views and opinions and listening to us review that one. Next week, we're back to classic Doctor Who. What have we got next week?
Seventh Doctor next week. Oh, which is great. But it means we've only got 2. I think there's only 2 that we haven't reviewed, so that won't leave many, or 3 maybe. But anyway, next week, 7th Doctor story, Dragonfire.
Yeah, we've only got 2 left.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so we've got Dragonfire and The Curse of Fenric.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, so Dragonfire next week, where we say goodbye to Mel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ace gets officially invited to join the TARDIS crew.
Yeah.
And I think this is the last one, isn't it? This is the final episode of series 24? 24. Must be, yeah. So Dragonfire next week.
Wow.
Yeah, get that watched. We'll ask for your thoughts on that one. And I know a certain listener has been bugging us for eons.
Yes.
To review this one.
That would be Adam, the Ultimate Whovian.
Yeah. So that will please him at
least. He'll
be
pleased.
Yeah. And I think we'll do there, buddy, for 193.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys, for sticking with us and listening to episode 193. It's been awesome having some cool merch and news to talk through. Really excited about our new composer.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the new music I just can't wait to hear something new. I love Murray Gold, but we're all desperate to hear something new. And cool.
Yeah.
And I'm most interested in the theme tune. That's going to be a biggie.
Yeah.
I would not want that one. I don't get me wrong, I'd love that one, but at the same time, it's like, Gary, go and do us a new theme tune. I'd be like, oh, crikey.
It's bound to divide. It doesn't matter how good it is, there'll always be someone who doesn't like, but we'll see.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And some cool bits of merch, more Torchwood on the way, which is always good news. Thank you so much for sending in your reviews, audio clips, or your Facebook or Twitter comments or voting on the poll. Always cool to have you guys involved. Next week, Dragonfire, the 7th Doctor. So get your DVDs out or whatever it is you've got. Give it a watch because we're going to need your views and opinions next week. Until then, head over to our website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of our shows on there, and you can also link off to all of the socials. We chat loads of Who during the week in between our Friday shows, so give us a like and a follow on that. On the podcast stuff, you can find us on most of the podcast networks. Just do a search for the Big Blue Box Podcast. If you're an iTunes listener, if you subscribe, if you could spare a minute for a review and a rating, that would be awesome, because that really helps us out loads. So find us on there and give us a subscribe so our shows go out every single Friday morning and you won't miss them. Remember to check out Adam's channel, The Geek's Handbag. Adam runs an awesome YouTube channel. Search for The Geek's Handbag, subscribe to his channel, and he's also on all of the socials. So give him a like and a sub on all that. Loads of Who chat and just general geeky stuff going on all the time.
All the time, never stops.
Cool. Right, until next week for 194. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember, Lonzy.